Welcome to Franchise Marketing Radio, brought to you by SEO SAMBA. Comprehensive high-performing marketing solutions for mature and emerging franchise brands. To supercharge your franchise marketing, go to SEOSamba.com. That's SEOSAMBA.com.
Welcome to Franchise Marketing Radio. Stone Payton Lee Cantor here with you this afternoon. Lee, this is going to be a fantastic segment. And, of course, today's episode is brought to you in part by the Business Radio X Studio Partner Program, equipping franchisors to help franchisees dominate their local market. To learn more about serving your market and growing your business, go to mybrxstudio.com. Please join me in welcoming to the broadcast President with TeamLogic IT, Mr. Rick Higgins. Good afternoon, sir.
Thanks, guys. I appreciate it. Glad to be here.
Well, Rick, before we get too far into things, can you tell us a little bit about TeamLogic IT? How are you serving folks?
We're specifically targeting the small to medium business market. For me, in my particular franchise, we're working here in North Metro and Metro Atlanta. But overall, TeamLogic has 200 offices nationwide.
Wow.
So we're in almost every major city. And it's really nice because I can tell people that we can be as big as we need to be or as small as we need to be depending on the opportunity of the client.
Now, what does a client look like? Who is the ideal client?
My typical client is between 30 and 50 people, but we have clients that are in the hundreds that have offices all over the country. And if their headquarters are here and I have them as a client, then I can service them with feet on the street in pretty much wherever they are.
Now, what is the service that you're doing for a client?
We like to tell people that if you plug it into the wall and call it technology, we'll support it. So we are real hands-on. We're nuts and bolts guys. I mean, we're working on everything from servers all the way down to the handheld devices that you carry around in your pocket.
And then what's the pain that a customer is having where they're like, I better call the TeamLogic IT folks?
It's usually something to do with some kind of security breach. That's the worst kind of pain that's going on right now. But it might be something as simple or what we call benign as email issues, email problems. We do we win a lot of business by displacing managed service providers, competitors of ours, who are just not answering the call. They're not showing up. So we get a call and say, hey, we heard you guys show up. And, we've already talked to some of your current clients. We're either a referral from them or we've seen something online about you guys. We know you show up, and we'd like to take you on as a vendor partner.
Now, are you working in all industries, or do you specialize in some? Like, are you great with dentist's office, and or can you do anybody?
The only people we won't work with is people that don't use technology. So what does that mean? That means we work with everybody.
But so you work with medical offices or law firms or ad agencies. Like, it doesn't really matter.
It doesn't matter. For whatever reason, about a third of our clients are CPA firms.
CPA firms.
I think CPAs just really get the value proposition of what we're doing. And they know that they don't want to be their own IT support.
Right.
So, if they can pay us our rate and then bill out at $200, $300, $400 an hour, they know that it's going to
work out. Yeah. And then, like, for a CPA firm, what would be the point of entry? Would they have been hacked, or they're afraid of being hacked, so they want somebody to come in and kind of make sure that their setup is
all of the above. All of the above. So it may be that we're coming in on a real red light situation where they're in big trouble.
Right. There was some sort of breach, and then they don't know how it happened or how to prevent the next one.
That's right. The provider that they have let them get into trouble, and they're bringing us in, and it's a real emergency.
Like a triage situation.
Yep, it's a dire triage emergency situation. Yeah,
and then when
happens.
So when that happens, you have the resources to kind of fix the situation right at that moment, but also put into place some things that'll prevent that from going forward.
We do. And one interesting differentiator for us is that we, for almost all of our clients, will deploy business continuity appliances for them that'll keep them out of trouble if and when they do have an attack. Because we can't guarantee, nobody can guarantee that you won't get attacked down the road.
Right, the largest companies in the world get attacked.
Yep, and so do the smallest.
Right.
So nobody's immune to it, nobody's above it, and no technology specialist out there can guarantee that you won't get attacked. But if you are working with somebody like us who can deploy business continuity as opposed to backup and recovery solutions, then you stay in business if you do get attacked. So the appliances that we deploy can take over the services of a server and let you stay in business while we come in and continue and work on that server. Mm-hmm. Right now, lead times to get a new server in place are at the least it's 1 week. Server demand and backup to buy the stuff and build a server, get it deployed, at least a week, and that's working double shifts.
And then that's where the importance of this continuity comes into play. You don't have to have kind of downtime and wait a week until everything gets fixed.
Right. Let's say you're a CPA firm with 10 people, 8 CPAs and a couple enrolled agents or something like that, and you're working off 1 or 2 servers. You get a malware attack during tax season.
Oh, ouch. You can't afford that. You could be out of business.
You can't miss a week or 2.
Right,
or
especially
3.
Those weeks.
And sometimes we're getting a call in the second week of the issue, right? So it can be real problematic. But if you have a business continuity appliance, you're talking about minutes of downtime, which we can all afford because that's just
everybody
go get a bottle of water and come back to work and everything's working fine.
So now, what's your background?
So I'm an engineer from Georgia Tech. Got out of Georgia Tech in the early 90s. Always been in technology in one way, shape, or form. Primarily, I did software, and IT was kind of the redheaded stepchild of software, so I always kept up with it more as a hobby than anything else. And back in 2015, when I decided I wanted to start a business.
So you worked for a corporation or
different corporations over the years,
right?
And I did some hardware stuff. I was in and out. In technology, people change around a lot, and I was no exception to that. I was moving around quite a bit, and but I had to get off the road.
So you were a lot of traveling
8 days a week. That's what it felt like. It was just terrible, and this business affords me the opportunity to sleep in my own bed every night.
And how did it even get on your radar? So how come you didn't go, you know what, I'm going to just start my own consultancy here. I know all this stuff. I don't need, kind of a national brand associated with me. People know me in town.
Yep. Great question. And I knew that to do a business like this, I wanted to always be on the cutting edge of technology. Mm-hmm. And for TeamLogic, that's really the big thing that we get from the franchisor is working out those partner relationships with the different vendors, the technology that's out there and that's available. It's a full-time job at our headquarters in Southern California for 4 people to do that. They're going and attending
all the conferences, getting all the thought leadership and the cutting edge, the bleeding edge.
That's right. They're reading the white papers. They're writing white papers in some cases. They're speaking at these things. And we can deflect as owners, as partners in the TeamLogic network, we can deflect all that bombardment that we get to headquarters. Say, look, if you're not...
So if they ask you a question about, hey, this new Oracle system, I read a blog post that this thing's going to change this and that and this, you don't have to have read about that. You can say, you know what, I'm going to get on that. I got one of my people that specializes in that. And then they could either talk to them directly or give them their kind of analysis of it.
Yep, that's right. I can kick that to headquarters to have them go through the process with that particular partner.
So they're willing to actually have that communication?
Oh, yeah.
So how much time does that save you? Just that alone, answering those kind of super complicated questions.
Just that by itself, frees me up to do what I do best, which is business development.
Right.
For me, nobody wants me working on their server. I will admit that right here on the radio. But I'm good at business development. I'm good in a sales setting. I'm good at generating leads, and I'm good at following up. I'm good at writing proposals and closing deals. Mm-hmm. But I've got a staff and I've got a director of operations that's doing the heavy lifting and really making the money for the company.
So now for you, when you said, okay, I'm going to join TeamLogic IT and I'm going to be a franchisee, did they help you kind of build this team around you, or did you already have people in place that, okay, I know this person can do this and I'll be able to do this?
I'd like to say that they helped me, and I kind of went into it with that expectation. But I'll tell you the truth, Lee. It was I really had to place those ads on Indeed and ZipRecruiter, and I had to find my
So you
guys
had to kiss a lot of frogs?
I did. It was...
There's no easy way to do that, right? Like, you just got to meet people and kind of vet them. And And did they help you at least with some sort of an assessment that, okay, this person has a likely suspect
they did.
to being the right person?
So they helped me with that initial bunch of resumes. And I have to look at 300 to 400 resumes just to hire one guy.
Right.
So I'll get that down to, say, 10 likely candidates. I can kick those over to headquarters. And in that first few months of operating the business, they helped me a lot with that. I will admit that. And then when I was able to find one or two of those first guys that I did hire, they were able to run them through a assessment of capabilities.
Like, do they really know this, or are they just saying they know this?
And I could do some of that myself too.
Right, because you can you probably have a good sniff test because you've been around it so much. You can tell if they're BSing or they're...
Yeah. And we had all kinds of stuff. This business is crazy. I mean, I've had people, and I've hired lots of people over my career. Since getting into IT, I've never had a situation where someone didn't show up for an interview till this. So I would say,
well, that's a red flag.
Chance of even somebody showing up for an interviews, I don't know. It's better than 50-50, but let's just say it's 80% they'll show up. 20% they won't. And but yeah, that's obviously they're telling you everything they need to know. You need to know about that guy or gal.
And then, so you knew going in that your main responsibility was going to be getting local business.
That's right, business development. That's really my forte. Mm-hmm. So in the TeamLogic world, they have two different kinds of owners. I have two different kinds of partners. I call the other owners my partners. We've got the guys like myself who came from a business development background, and their first hire will be the tech.
Right.
So the two will partner and go forward and conquer.
But is it a partnership, or is that more of an employee?
In my case, it was an employee. There are some that form as a partner.
Like where they're a team. Like, okay, it's like, front of the house, back of the house kind of thing.
That's right. Sometimes there'll be two owners that come in together where they know how they're going to split their responsibilities. Mm-hmm. Those TeamLogics tend to be very successful.
Right.
The other is the flip-flop, where it's a guy who's been in technology his whole life. He wants to own his own business,
but he can't sell,
but he can't spell proposal or sell. He can't spell it, and that's fine. But you've got to go out there and then hire somebody like me.
Like right away.
You got to do it.
Before right away.
Yeah. You want to have that employee on board before you open your door.
Right.
And you both have to go through some training out at headquarters, which we do. And that's one of the other things that headquarters does really good for us as a franchisor is provide that training.
And then the training element for you as a salesperson, you were comfortable in that role already. Was that something that you felt was beneficial, or was this something that you go, I think I can handle this part of it? Like, did they tell you something you didn't know?
It was, yeah, of course. There was a week of training, maybe one morning or maybe 3/4 of one day we spent on sales and marketing. Mm-hmm. The rest of the stuff is there's just some things you've got to know about how to be a franchisee within the TeamLogic network. Mm-hmm. And so there's a lot of that. And, you come out of there feeling like you drank out of a fire hose, right. the typical cliche. But it's good. It's good. And then, first 2 years is a real grind. But anybody will tell you that if they're starting a business from zero, even as a franchisee, those first couple of years are a real grind.
Yeah, there's no shortcut.
No.
And then for you, once you start getting clients, I'm sure it becomes residual revenue, right? They're right. Like kind of once you get them, they kind of stick with you for a period of time until there's some compelling reason not to.
So across our overall network, and again, we're talking about roughly 200 offices, we've got an average renewal rate of 96%. Another way to think of that same statistic is that if I sign a client today, on average, I'll have them for 9.6 years. So that's the average length of a contract, and that's my expectation.
Right.
And knock on wood, today we have not been fired for cause. We've had some turnover in clients, which
right. Well,
which
I'm
happens.
sure when you're dealing with companies, and then the new guy comes on, and he's got a guy that he's used. There's some. You're going to lose some business, no fault of anybody's, other
right.
than he's got a guy that he used in his previous company, and now he wants to implement it in his new company.
That hasn't happened to us. We've actually benefited from that crazy situation that you're talking about. We did lose a large client in early 2019 because they got acquired. And it was the big fish swallowing a small fish, which was my client.
Right.
And they had their own in-house IT. They wanted nothing to do with us.
Right.
Even though their IT was in Houston, we tried to work out, was like, hey, look, we can at least be your feet on the street here, because my client that got acquired wasn't the only Atlanta-based entity that they had and that they were supporting out of Houston. But they wanted nothing to do with us. And I think, IT people, well, maybe even just say this about most people are territorial.
Sure.
They want what's theirs, and they don't want anybody else mucking around with it.
So now, from your standpoint about going out there and kind of grinding in order to get that book of business so that it can sustain itself and build upon it itself, that took about 2 years.
Well, I was pretty fortunate. I was generating business in the first month, and but to get to where I could pay myself and to get to where I was consistently in the black, past break even and staying past break even, really was 2 years. We did our first break even at 18 months, but then what happens? You've got enough business where you've got to make another hire,
right,
and
then
you go right back into the red.
Yeah.
And so you're trying to cross that chasm,
right?
And it's it can be nasty.
So now, for you at this point in your relationship with TeamLogic IT, is it something that they want you to open up another, like TeamLogic IT or TeamLogic IT Dunwoody? Do they want you to be TeamLogic IT Snellville and take over a different territory? Or does it work that way? Or is each TeamLogic IT person in a market kind of their own thing, and there's no point in getting a second location because of the way you operate?
I have some partners. The partner up in Philadelphia has, I think, 7 or 8 different franchise locations. But his plan is different. He's looking to divest and sell off. And for him, the logical way to do that is to build up a book of business in a particular area and then sell that piece off piecemeal. So his plan is in Philadelphia for there to be 6, 7, 8 different franchisees that he's all sold his business to. Right now, he hasn't sold anything yet, and he's basically just operating all of those territories out of 1, maybe 2 locations, because I think he's got North Philly and South Philly. So,
if you're just now joining us, you're listening to Franchise Marketing Radio. Our guest today is President with TeamLogic IT, Mr. Rick Higgins. Rick, talk to me a little bit about the marketing for an enterprise like yours. How do you get the word out to the Dunwoody community or the local business community? How does the whole sales and marketing thing work for a firm like yours?
So we're doing the full gamut of paid advertising. Google paid ads. We do every kind of paid ad you can imagine. We're doing email marketing. We've got cold calling going out. But I tell people that the most effective thing still to this day is picking up the phone and making that cold call.
Is that right?
That's right, yeah. And I say to the other franchisees that I talk to, and they're like, how do you build business so quickly? I say you got to do it. You got to put in the work. You got to make those calls. And there's I think it's the Army Rangers have a saying, don't be upset about the results you didn't get from the work you didn't do.
I like that. Now, can you shop that out? Should you shop that out, or does that really need to be Rick Higgins making that call?
Stone, I've tried all of the above, and although shopping that out can work, it's just not as effective as me doing it myself. And I do it every day. I have to block out time every day.
How many calls do you make a day?
So I try to always make at least 10. But if I have an opening, in the slot, or if a meeting gets canceled or something like that, then I'll fill that in I can always fill it in with calling.
And then how do you get a list? Is that part of what the franchisor provides?
They did provide me with an initial list, but it's old. I mean, once you get a brand new list, it's old when you first get it anyway. So I try to renew it every so often, usually not.
But where do you get
like
today's 10 names? Where'd they come from?
I can't remember the name of the company I used to buy the list, but
you're buying a list somewhere,
yeah.
And then are you going after a certain a title or a type of bit? Who is the person you're trying to reach?
Yeah, I want to talk to the owner,
The owner.
Yeah, I want to talk to the owner of the small private business.
Okay,
Because
so
he or she is going to be the decision maker regardless. And so getting past a gatekeeper of a receptionist or something like that is key.
So then it's the owner of a 50-plus employee company.
That's right.
So and you don't care the industry, so it doesn't matter.
I don't care. We're getting a lot of traction lately in manufacturing,
Right.
And distribution. So, and those clients tend to be a lot bigger.
And when you're making that call, is there something you're asking them for? Is there something that you can offer a way to at least have a conversation?
I'm asking them just one question, and it was your first question is what's your pain? Because if you're not having pain, then let's not talk. Let's just move on.
You're not ready for me.
I would
right
just
now.
rather move on, and we part friends, ships passing in the night. I'll call you again in 6 months, and we'll talk about it again.
Right.
And then I will also ask for permission to put them on my drip email campaign.
Right.
I use Constant Contact for that.
And you're sharing thought leadership about cybersecurity or some
That's right.
issues that IT challenges they might be having.
It helps keep me in their frontal lobe.
Right.
So our latest client we won was a comeback around from something we lost 4 years ago, but they stayed on my drip email campaign.
Exactly. That's a gift to you keep doing that. That's going to pay dividends.
So she called me and said, we made a mistake and we're sick of this. So it's time for you to come in and hey, I said, hey, why did you think of me? And she said, well, you've been sending me that email.
Right.
For 4 years.
Right.
4 years she's been getting my monthly email. And she kept, and so it just happened to pop in at a time.
Right. All it has to do is hit her right when that person didn't call her back.
Right.
And that's what happened.
Let me call Rick because I know he'll call me back.
So I want to go back to one thing you were asking about the grind.
Mm-hmm.
And I am constantly getting calls from potential franchisees, because I know you guys are all about wanting to talk about the franchisor and how franchisors develop business and sell to franchisees. So I'm getting calls from potential people that want to know, hey, here's a guy. I'm a guy who's in its 5th year right now.
Right.
And what was the first year like? What was the
what's their fears? Like, what is their biggest concern when they're calling you? What is the thing that they're apprehensive about?
That they're going to run out of cash. Same thing we're all afraid of. I mean, it's the only thing that runs people out of business. Other than every now and then there'll be a health issue.
Right.
A guy will get really sick, or a guy's wife, or vice versa, will get really sick, and there's nothing you can do about that. You just can't. They just can't work. Period.
Right.
And but what I tell them, they always ask me, would you do it again? And I say yes. And, what's the greatest thing about it? And it just really didn't hit me till this last year or so. Is that thinking that we have a situation now where we've got a bunch of guys making mortgage payments, car payments, kids in private school, kids in college. And we created that economic engine out of nothing.
Right.
There was nothing. And it did not exist before we showed up and said, hey, we're gonna do this. So that's the thing that's the coolest to me.
And that's something that it probably wasn't on your radar going in, about the impact you would have in the community and the families that you're impacting, the children that you're impacting. It wasn't even probably something that occurred to you.
No, I didn't see that coming.
Mm-hmm. And that's probably the most rewarding emotionally part of this.
It is. Oh, man, I sleep like a baby every night. It's so great.
Right.
Because I just know we're doing so much good for so many people.
Right.
Now, those folks may have jobs elsewhere.
Right.
We're really big into making sure our morale stays high with our staff. Mm-hmm. So we're paying multiple bonuses a year. I call them stay bonuses, but no one's leaving. Not going to work again. No one's leaving. We're doing really good at paying really well. We just finished, our Christmas bonuses in December. Everybody did really well. And, life is good. Right now, Atlanta is just booming.
Right.
Atlanta's a tough place to get around. and especially right here on the perimeter top end. And I guess this is a national show, so I'll just tell you folks that are out there listening, Atlanta traffic is nasty.
Well, the way I look at it is, if the city was crappier, there'd be less cars and traffic. But this is a pretty attractive place for a lot of people in a lot of industries. So a lot of people want to move here.
Yeah. And I'm not sure what the latest is, but Atlanta's got still, even during the recession of 07, 08, 09, we were still adding net new jobs to the city.
Right.
We never went negative on that, as far as I know.
Right. And I think the diversity of our economy is one of our strengths. We're not like a one industry town. We have a bunch of industries that are really big industries with a lot of people in them, and they're moving from all over the place to be part of it.
That's right.
So now, for you, looking back, this TeamLogic IT, joining their team and being part of that franchise system, that worked out perfectly for you, it seems. Like
nothing's perfect, but it worked out great.
But in terms of choices, if you were to go it on your own and have tried to build the same type of thing, there would have been a lot more hurdles, it sounds like.
I don't think I could have done it. I really don't. I mean, when I was looking at this opportunity, I was also looking at a couple other existing businesses.
So you were looking to buy a business
that
was in the same industry, or were you looking to be like a Jiffy Lube?
Yeah, I didn't ever look at any other. This was the only franchise that I looked at. Well, there was another one that's in the same space, CMIT. I did look at them. It's just TeamLogic had a much better value proposition, and it was really clear to me, at least from what I saw at the time, again, this was 2015, that they were just doing a lot better job of supporting their franchisees.
Right.
And but no, I was looking at some other businesses in completely different industries. It didn't have to be technology.
Because you're business development, so you can sell anything. Probably.
That's right. But I just kept coming back to, it's like, no, I want to stay in technology. You know, it had been my bread and butter, and I wanted to stay in technology. Technology's booming. And it was even at the time, and I just didn't want to get away from that growth cycle.
And then if somebody wanted to learn more about TeamLogic IT in Dunwoody, you have a website for that?
Yep, teamlogicit.com/DunwoodyGA or /R Higgins, which is my name. Either will go to my particular franchise.
And then teamlogicit.com probably gets to the corporate entity?
That's right. And you can find me,
through that. And then if you want the information about being a franchisee, there's probably information there as well.
Yep.
Good stuff, Rick. Well, thank you so much for sharing your story today.
Thank you, Lee. Glad to be here, and thanks for the opportunity.
All right. This is Lee Cantor for Stone Payton. We will see you all next time on Franchise Marketing Radio.